Good morning. Today, Thursday, the 3rd of August, 2023. I am Rosemarie Polemi. I'm a volunteer at the VA Medical Center in Aurora, Colorado, and I'm going to be interviewing you, Mr. Stanley Shafer, as part of our Remembering Our Veterans program. So welcome.
Thank you.
All right. How about we start with you? Tell me about your childhood.
Well, I live on the same ranch I grew up on. Now I'm 91 years old.
My gosh, and where is that?
That's in Laird, Colorado.
Laird, Colorado.
And it's about 4 hours from Denver. We lack about 3 miles of being on the cornerstone of Kansas, Nebraska, and Colorado.
Oh my gosh. And you've been there for a lot of years then,
yes.
Huh? Any memories from your youth or growing up on the farm?
Oh, yeah. I always had a little white dog, and I called him Whitey. And I had him trained so he'd stay in my wagon, I'd pull him around. And then when I went to school, he wanted to follow me, and I couldn't let him come.
Oh. Yeah. Was he waiting for you when you got home?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Did you go to college or did you go right into the military?
No, I went 2 years to college.
Excellent. And what was your studies?
Agriculture.
Agriculture. And were you married? Are you married?
I'm married. I'm married after I come back from Korea.
Okay. And do you have any children?
Yes, I had 3 daughters.
And grandchildren?
And then 4 grandsons.
Awesome. Awesome. So what motivated you to go into the military?
Well, I was back in those days, they were drafting. And I had a friend that I worked with all the time. I wanted him to join the Marine Corps with me. And he said he wasn't going to join that Marine Corps when he'd go to the Army for 2 years. So anyway, I visited with the lady at the draft office. And she says, if we mail this letter to you and you open it, you got to go to the Army. And so she said she would call and let me know when she's going to put it in the mail. So anyhow, my mother got that phone call one day, and she said, you better go ahead and enlist because the draft notice is coming in the mail tomorrow. So I just wore some throwaway clothes and went to Laird and got on a train and rode to Denver and enlisted in the Marine Corps. And I'd had other friends joining the Air Force or Navy or whatever, and they'd come home for maybe 2 weeks. So anyhow, the officer asked me when I wanted to leave. And I said, well, I'd like to wait 2 weeks and then go. He says, that ain't what I had in mind, tonight or in the morning.
Oh.
I said, well, I guess if I can wait until the morning, I'll just stay in Denver tonight and go in the morning. So the next day, I was the only one from Colorado that joined the Marine Corps. So they put me on a plane and flew me to San Diego. And I got out to Phoenix and landed, and a little short guy come and sat down by me, and he'd joined the Marine Corps from Oklahoma. So anyhow, we went together and got out there. We got in there, it was dark, didn't know east from west, and they unloaded us to barracks where they had all the recruits coming in. At any rate, first thing we had to do was scrub the floor. And then we had to wash the windows. And so we spent all night just cleaning that squad bay. And then they put us in platoon and sent us off to boot camp.
So what made you choose the Marines over the Air Force?
Well, I guess I'd heard about the Marines, and during that time, the war was kind of hot and heavy in Korea, and I knew the Marines had a better training than the Army did, and so, well, I had some friends that they were drafted, and they just went through 3 weeks of training and sent them right into combat, and I didn't want that. So at any rate, well, I enlisted in the Marine Corps.
So where did you go from San Diego?
Well, I went to a drill instructor school, and then they sent me up to Camp Pendleton for combat training. Then I came back to San Diego and trained recruits for about 6, 8 months. And then I was called up to go to Korea. And so I called my folks and told them I had a car out there and everything. So I called my folks and told them where the car would be. And so they got on the train and came to California. And I wanted them to come down around the ocean and see the ships and stuff. My dad didn't want to do that. He wanted to get that car and get home.
He had farming to do, right?
So at any rate, I had somebody take me in a Jeep, and he wanted the shortest way to learn Colorado. So we took him out the back door of Camp Pendleton to a little town called Fallbrook. And then he got on the highway and went to Colorado. Well, he hadn't got out of sight, and they canceled my orders to Korea.
Oh my goodness.
Well, he was already on the way, so I spent another 6 months there in Camp Pendleton. Went through combat training again, but I was attached to the 7th Engineers. And I really liked the engineers. So I figured I'd try to get in the engineers if I went overseas. And I talked to anybody I thought could get me in the engineers, but nobody did. So it come my turn to go to Korea. Why? The fighting had ceased. And so I was one of the first drafts that went to Korea after they quit fighting. And so we went into Incheon, and then I was in there, they telling us where we was going to go. We had 2,000 Marines, and they split us all up and sent us different organizations in Korea. Well, there was about 12 of us sitting there. And nobody ever called our name. So I seen an old tech sergeant, and I asked him if he could tell us where we were supposed to be. And he went back in the tent and come back out and said, "You guys are supposed to be on that truck to go to the engineer."
So you got it.
So somewhere between San Diego and Korea, I got changed to an engineer. So at any rate, they sent me up. And the first night I was in Korea, I had all my clothes on and slept in a sleeping bag. And I took off my boots because I didn't want to sleep with my boots on. The next morning, I got ready to get up. I reached over to get my boots, and they was froze to the floor.
Oh my goodness.
So from then on, I never did thaw out. I was cold.
The whole time.
Yeah.
What's your most vivid memory, besides the frozen boots, something that you'll never forget?
Well, I had a lot of them. And I guess one that really bothered me is in the engineers, they put me on a bulldozer and put me on this mountain to make a road. And a big rock rolled down the mountain. And and exploded. Well, those Koreans left mines every place. And it hit a mine, but it didn't hurt me.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I bet it scared you enough.
Oh, yeah. This was a kind of exciting moment for me because this horse was kept over the hill from my camp. And I was walking duty one night up on the ridge. About 4 o'clock in the morning, I heard some rustling in the bushes. And my hair just stood up. I thought I was being an enemy coming. And then I could hear it clump, clump, clump. Knew then it was that horse. And she followed me back to the end of the post.
Oh my goodness, where'd she come from? She was just
wandering?
wandering?
See, there's an outfit called Four Deuces, and they had a cannon that it took 2 men to carry, and the men could only carry about 2 bullets. And you get into combat, they need to move that gun, and they need to carry ammo. So the lieutenant, he grew up on a ranch, and he thought they just had a horse that chains on it. So they went into Sewell one day and found this racehorse. But during the war, they'd quit running racehorse. And so the owner of this horse, his sister had lost a leg due to the war. And he offered to sell that horse for $200. And then he'd buy a leg for his sister.
Oh my goodness.
So that's what they done. They bought the horse.
Oh, nice.
And it was a very smart horse. And
what was the horse's name? Reckless Horse?
Reckless. So because of their outfit was called the Reckless outfit, that they named the horse Reckless. And when I got out, I had a horse that I called Reckless.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. But she lived, they finally transferred her back to the States, and she lived to be about 20 years old.
Well, that's pretty good for a horse, right? Was it quarter horse, or what kind of horse was she?
It was it was one of those foreign breeds.
Arabian or something like that.
Yeah.
Did Reckless ever rescue soldiers or help with?
Oh yeah, Reckless would carry ammunition up to the top of the hill. And then they'd put the wounded on Reckless, and she'd carry the wounded back down.
Oh my gosh.
And one day they was in a battle, real heavy fighting, and she'd carry maybe 160 pounds of ammo up the hill and then carry down the wounded.
Oh my goodness.
And they done that all day long. And they figured she'd went up and down that hill so many times, she just done it on her own.
She knew what was expected of her.
If you ever want to hear the story, you can go on TV to sergeantreckless.com.
And I think there's a book about Sergeant Reckless.
And then this book, and I met the author of that book.
Interesting, very nice.
Oh, and then they developed a bronze statue of her. Excuse me. At Camp Pendleton. And my wife and I was invited out to that.
Oh, nice.
And so I met the lady that made the bronze statue and the author of the book.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Very nice. Was there any particular humorous event while you were there? What part of Korea were you in?
I was in South Korea.
Okay.
And the temperature was always cold, and the dirt was dry and dirty. And then when in the season when it rained, why, it was either powdery dry or mud.
Oh my goodness.
And then I slept in the tent all the time. And I was right up on the militarized zone, and you could see the North Koreans over there. So they could see us. But I stayed in that area for about 6 months. Then they transferred me to another outfit, and I went to headquarters company, which is back a few miles.
Did you get to stay with the 12 of you that were left that day? Were you all staying together? No. Everybody got separated, huh?
Yeah.
Went their own way. What was the best part of your service experience?
Well, I guess the training, because I had excellent training. And I just appreciated that. I felt comfortable.
Good.
And then I always figured if the war broke out while I was well trained.
Good.
I remember a colonel by the name of Crow. Colonel Crow, I thought, was probably one of the sharpest people I ever knew. And I respected him. And he was in charge of our company at San Diego when I was a drill instructor.
Did he give you any wisdom that you used the rest of your life?
Well, I think just being around him.
Were you awarded any medals or any honors while you were in the service?
No, just in my service time.
Okay. And what did you do when you got back home?
Well, I spent about 6 months in Camp Pendleton, and then I got discharged. Got out in October 1955, I believe.
1955.
Yeah.
That's what, 70 years ago?
Yeah.
About 70 years ago?
And I came back to Laird, and I just day worked for about the first year, and then I partnered up with my father on the ranch, and I've been there ever since.
What was the transition from military life back to the ranch like?
Well, I was fortunate because I joined my father, and he was a good teacher.
Good.
So I just, then I partnered up with him and been there ever since.
Good.
And he passed on, and I took over.
And you still live on the ranch today?
I still live there.
That's
and
awesome.
My wife, she passed away 3 years ago.
I'm sorry.
So my daughter lives with me now.
Was there any wisdom or that you could give others who are transitioning from the military to civilian life to help them with that transition?
Well, I think it's a different life being in the military. And you just have to forget some of that and be a civilian. And so I think it's just that change. It's important that you accept it. And I'm one of those that feel there's always a place to work because I had good work ethics.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Do you have cattle on the ranch, or is it?
Yeah, I have
horses?
Cattle, wheat, and corn.
Wheat and corn. Good staples. Do you have any hobbies?
Do I what?
Have any hobbies that you do?
Well, I play a lot of cards.
What's your favorite game?
Well, they pitch.
Was there any particular other life-changing or lifetime event that happened to you that stands out in your mind, either in the military or after the military?
Well, I think the military trained me to obey the rules, and I always respected the training I had, which helped me in civilian life, that to stay with the rules.
Were there any other life lessons that you learned from your military experience? It sounds like, following rules and working hard was the biggest thing.
Yeah, well, I grew up on the farm knowing what hard work meant.
Mm-hmm.
And then tie that with the military training, what made it a lot easier for me when I got out of the military.
Did you have any other brothers or sisters that were with you on the farm? Or?
I had 2 sisters,
Okay.
but they were both younger than I was.
Is there anything that you did not like about your military experience and you were glad to leave behind?
Well, I guess just being away from my family for 3 years I was in the service.
Okay, that was hard.
Yeah.
Did you write letters back and forth?
Or? Oh, I wrote letters. I was a poor letter writer, so my mother would send me a letter, leave a skip between the sentences. I'd just fill in the blank and send it back.
That's pretty clever. What do you wish that more people knew about the military or about being a veteran?
Well, I think if people realized the hardship that you went through while you was in the military, they would appreciate the veterans more.
Absolutely.
But it was just another life for us, and we done what we had to do.
Do you still keep in touch with any of your colleagues that
Well,
were?
I've kind of all of my friends that passed on. I'm one of the few left.
Oh my gosh. What would you like people to know or remember about your journey?
Well, first of all, I served my country, and I went in during wartime, but I stayed in until it was over. And but I did serve.
Absolutely. And we thank you for that service.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Is there any message you would like to leave future generations?
Well, when you're called upon, don't be afraid to serve. It's just part of life.
Awesome. Is there anything else that weren't in the questions that you would like to add or comment on?
No, I think it covered everything pretty good.
All right. Well, thank you so much again, Mr. Shafer, and thank you for your service. We truly appreciate you and all the veterans.
You're welcome. It seems like it's been a long time ago.
It has, right?